So I wanted to ask you a couple questions. I've been talking to folks throughout the conference. One of the things that we see right now in the world is that our freedoms are under attack. You talk about freedom of speech, you talk about freedom of movement. You seem to be very attuned to what's going on politically in the world, geopolitically. One of the things that I always get excited about when I listen to you is to hear your vision for a vertically aligned ecosystem. Do you mind sharing that with us to tell us really, is this potentially going to be a sovereign alternative to the CBDCs? Is this ecosystem potentially going to be the place of freedom and sovereignty?
It's possible. It takes effort and it takes time. So I'll give you an example. When did email basically kill normal mail? It took a long time. And when did the digital camera kill the analog camera? It took a while. When did MP3s kill CDs? That one was probably pretty quick, but maybe it was still 10 years. We are very close in that the technology's gotten better and better and better. When I first got into crypto, if you sent over 100 sends, it invalidated all your backups because your backups would only cover the first 100 addresses because it didn't use HD wallets where one seed word generated everything or one seed phrase generated everything. It manually generated public-private key pairs that then generated addresses, and then, you would just lose all your stuff. And, back then, there were so fewer users, and they used it so little, probably not that many guys ran into that particular problem, hopefully. Or maybe that's where all those unmoved coins are. You always look at all those unmoved coins. You're like, I wonder why those people never spent any of that money. It's always interesting. So when you want to replace everything, it helps to be 10 times better than what you're replacing. And the more harshly that governments crack down on their people, the more welcoming and more of a competitive advantage what we have has to offer. So in the Netherlands, they're destroying the farmers. I find that to be disgusting. And, in Canada, when they squash political protest by seizing the bank accounts of people that even sent money for other people to buy sandwiches. So you're guilty of a crime of funding sandwich purchases? Nope, not okay. As you said, freedom of movement destroyed, freedom of speech destroyed. And it really is. I mean, all the libertarian, this is what I've always found so funny. Libertarian guys would always say government bad. You're like, okay. They're private companies. Go start your own Facebook. And you're like, you can't actually do that. It doesn't work. Like they tried, I think Parler tried that, and then they got shut down. They lost their hosting. They got banned everywhere, And so there's an entrenched media conglomerate that controls the narrative about everything. Like I heard Zuckerberg on Rogan, and I read the comments, which I should never do. Comments are where happy people go to die, particularly on channels that aren't mine. And somebody in the channel was like, "Hey, ask about Zuckerberg checking like $400 million at influencing the election, and so why he acts fair and balanced in public when he talks about the decisions Facebook's made." And then you look at what he's doing privately. Apparently, he's funding the crap out of, left things. Now, it's like you want to be apolitical because you want to on-ramp every kind of user. But on the other hand, you want to live in a better place. And there's a very obvious difference between the guys that wouldn't let you travel, wouldn't let you see your family, still won't let you travel, and just treat you like a guinea pig. And, there's a particular type of politics that those people tend to like. And that disgusts me. And like this idea of like, hey, let's hire 80,000 agents for the IRS. And you're like, the government doesn't produce anything. They don't make anything. They just take your money and give it to other people. That's all they do. They don't farm. They don't build cars. They don't build planes. They don't build sodas. They don't make paint. All they do is take your money and give it to other people. And so the more human beings in the society that get sucked into the machine of redistributing other people's wealth, the less people there are left to bear the load of actually doing the work of making the world a better place. So I'll give an example. Germany. Apparently 24% the price of gas in Germany is actually the price of gas. And the rest is all tax and crap. And so they tax it to death. So here's what they do. I mean, one of the tweets I've made recently that I liked more than others was, 2023 electric cars and blackouts. And that's really what it is. So they raise the tax on gas, hoping that the market decides to make electric more viable. And then they consequently make it so that electric doesn't work anymore because you don't have any gas, because batteries do not generate electricity. Batteries store energy. And where does the energy come from that they store? Well, in a lot of these countries, from burning gas and oil. And so batteries are not a solution for power generation, period. And they never will be. You still have to generate the power. And so, you've got gas prices up 2x, 3x in the UK, up 50, 60% in other countries like Italy. And it's wild to me that governments think that they can print their way into prosperity. Running the money printer doesn't make you a prosperous nation. Building stuff makes you a prosperous nation. So cryptocurrency is a more efficient medium of exchange, a more efficient store of value, a more durable good, a more recognizable good, nearly impossible to counterfeit. Traditionally, these other currencies are not. It has other properties such as, if you get paid and you wait enough confirmations, you really got paid. There's no chargebacks. But if in the United States you accept an ACH transfer, they can charge that back up to 6 months, maybe even a year later. You never really have the money. It's a joke. They can always claw it back. And wire transfers are different from ACH. And that's different than a merchant processing account. And that's different from PayPal law. So, cryptocurrency is one of the only technologies that exists that can return the power back to the people and make you rich at the same time. There's a lot of things you do to improve the world that cost you personally, and you don't end up profiting. You just end up losing. So hey, this guy's poor. You give him all your money. Now you're broke. He's rich. Okay. And he'll probably become broke again because that's how I got broke in the first place. That's why trust exists. So you trickle money at people so they don't just go blow it all. And then they're like, well, I gave you all that money, you blew it all. That's why trust exists, so that you can trickle the money at them. So same thing with improving the world through crypto is that you can get rich doing it, and then you become stronger while you're making the world a better place. When you put your financial energy into peer-to-peer, open source, distributed, censorship resistant, known future issuance, something that gets more rare instead of more common, that's good for everybody that's involved. Obviously, what price you get in at makes a difference, and the rate at which you're acquiring new users and things like that. But it's a growth market. I mean, right now, the dollar's its all-time low versus stuff, and other national currencies are at 20-year lows versus the dollar. So imagine if you held a currency that wasn't the dollar, another fiat currency, like say the euro, the dollar is down massive, and then the euro is down an extra third. It lost a third of its purchasing power over the last 15 years versus the dollar. And cryptocurrency would solve all that. If you bought Bitcoin or Ethereum or Dogecoin or Hex or anything much earlier, not anything, but any of the things that has good product market fit and durability, good security, well, you'd be up massive right now. You'd have life-changing wealth. People talk about, it's too late to buy Hex. You're like, oh, really? It's too late before it's listed on any big exchanges, before there's any documentaries, before there's a copy on another chain, while there's a 90% dip, And then also, while there's only 107,000 stakers, that's when it's too late, because it sounds early to me. That sounds really early to me. I don't think 107,000 stakers is the end. I think it's the beginning. And you guys are proof of that, you know. We put on like 4,000 or 5,000 of those in just the last couple months. There's sites that publish like how many new users per day and things like that. So Hex.vision, I think Staker.app might have something. There's a couple other Hex like stats sites. So maybe you go to hex.com/links, you can find some more. It's actually hard for me to keep track of all these new cool sites. Like there's this one site I haven't figured out yet, all the stuff it does. Yeah, so cryptocurrency, Hex, well, you know, the original question was freedom and vertical integration. And I covered the freedom a bit, but I didn't cover the vertical integration. Hex is made better by Pulse Chain. Pulse Chain, especially in the beginning, is made better by Ethereum. You're going to probably most of the activity is going to be through bridges in the beginning until it gets direct listings, right? Because you have to touch the fiat world. You have to touch the economic energy that people get paid in. So the more secure that is, better for everybody. Not to mention, guys, Hex is on Ethereum as well. So a more secure Ethereum is a nice one. And then the wallet, you know, I'm not extremely happy with the wallet ecosystem in Ethereum. I'd like to see more diversity. I'd like to see there be more options. I'm having one built. It's in progress. So in theory, vertical integration would be, you've got the trading on PulseX, you've got the consensus network on Pulse Chain, you've got value storage and Hex, but really all of these probably serve value storage pretty good. But time deposit, there's nothing that's going to do that better than Hex. And we've got all these derivatives built on top of Hex now. So you may have heard of them, like Hadron, Icosa, Maxi. We've also got the incentive token. That right there is almost the whole stack. So you've got coins, trading, consensus network, wallet. Only thing left is fiat on-ramp and off-ramp. And then you're pretty much vertically integrated in that ecosystem. And it's weird to use the term vertical integration and things that are distributed, but they're more cultural, you know? So probably if you like salsa, you're more likely to like merengue. You know, if you like one kind of Latin music, you're probably more likely to like another kind of Latin music. If you like one kind of video game, you're probably more likely to like another kind of video game. And so if you like one Richard Hart invention, you're probably more likely to like other Richard Hart inventions. Does that cover it? I think that covers vertical integration and freedom.
System that
you have to have privacy. You have to have it. First of all, it's a protected human right. So the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution states that there should be no unreasonable search and seizure. Well, why? Because the guys that wrote that were being unreasonably searched and seized, and they got tired of it. It sucked to just have anybody come in your house and search all your stuff all the time. It sucked. And then we had a digital right against that, or we had an analog right against that. So if you broke into someone else's mailbox and read their mail, that's a federal crime. Big no-no. But now everybody reads your mail. ISP reads your mail. Email provider reads your mail. Admin at their network reads the mail. It's a joke. And so you lost your analog rights in the digital world. And that's not the only place that's happened. You also lost, so there was laws about utilities and you having to have access to utilities. And the telephone was a utility and it had to be affordable to access it. And so they broke up a monopoly. They broke up Ma Bell into little regional things and split it up so you could get better deals. But now our utilities are social media, but they haven't been broken up, even though they're more useful to us than the original utility the telephone was. And so now you are this close to getting banned at all times. This close. It could be random, it could be a bot. I've had my YouTube channel banned 4 times, I believe. Luckily, it keeps coming back, but maybe one day it won't. You know, my Instagram got banned, didn't come back. Now I got another one. Luckily, the other one was dead so long, I got the same name. But basically, if you want to live in a world where your rights are protected, you got to fight for it. And to fight for it politically makes sense. It's technology can't solve politics, unfortunately. You've got to do the hard work of winning hearts and minds. And there's a lot of stupid people out there. So you got to speak truth to stupid. That's it. It's that simple. And there's evil ideas in their head that they think are the ones that should win, which is unfortunate. So you got to combat those guys too. It's this whole breed of people that thinks the right way to run the world is to remove other people's speech to them. It's like, didn't you go to school and learn about the Constitution? Why do you think free speech is a protected right? The First Amendment, the first. Why is it the first? Because without it, the other ones don't really matter much. And the freedom to transact underpins all that. Oh, you have freedom of speech only if you can afford an internet connection. Are you going to go to a rally or a demonstration? Only if you can afford a ticket. Oh, well, if you can't buy tickets because the CBDC doesn't allow your ticket purchase, so the freedom to transact underlies all other rights. And without the freedom to transact, you do not have any other rights. Like America, how much freedom can you afford? How good's your lawyer? So, justice is blind, except for the better lawyer usually wins, that kind of thing, right? So with Tornado Cash, you cannot run an effective business without privacy. You can't have your customers knowing what you're paying your suppliers. You can't have one supplier know what you're paying another supplier. You can't have a list of all your customers public. You can't have a list of all your employees public. Your employees can't know what other employees are getting paid. You need anonymity in capitalism, period. You need privacy as a human being to function, period. I'm not the inventor of this idea. These ideas have been around for a very long time, and that's why it's illegal to get binoculars and peep in other people's windows. That's why it's illegal to break into people's houses and read all their documents or steal their trade secrets. Or, there's a long list of the courts deciding that your privacy is special. So, and then what happens? Well, the government decides to just make it harder for everybody. So they hurt everybody. So to try and stop one criminal, they hurt everybody. Well, why are you trying to stop the criminal? To prevent them from doing harm. So you do harm instead of them? Doesn't make sense. It's like killing the patient to stop the disease. Congrats, you stopped the disease, but you killed the patient. The idea of stopping the disease was to help the patient have a higher quality of life. The idea of stopping financial criminals is to help everyone else that's honest go about their business and live a better life. And so there needs to be anonymity for capitalism on the blockchain. And it's not okay that whenever you pay someone, they see a history of everyone you've ever done business with, how much money you make, when you make it, that's not okay. It's not even in the realm of okay. But the governments are out of date on it. They don't understand how important it is, probably because they've never run a business on the blockchain before. Maybe once some legislators have actually operated a business on the blockchain, they'll understand how important privacy is. And particularly in countries that have authoritarian regimes where they just take you out of your house and shoot you if you fund the wrong thing. Really important for those guys.
Hey, Richard, can you hear us okay?
Yep, I hear it.
Terrific. So I'm going to step out of the camera, and I think that Matt can basically be a great MC for the people that want to be a 30-second conversation. Okay. They're really just going to ask a question and then step off stage, and then you can engage the next person and maybe ask a Q&A.
I appreciate these wonderful questions because I had blew my load at 20 minutes. I was like, dang, I covered all that stuff. But it turns out there's a lot more really important stuff.
Okay. All right.